Every interaction in life is an exchange of energy. When two people meet, it is not only their words that speak, but their presence, their tone, their posture, their unseen vibration. You can walk into a room and immediately sense whether the energy feels heavy, light, tense, or welcoming. This is because every human being radiates what they carry inside, and others are constantly receiving and responding to that frequency. Energy exchange is not something that happens occasionally. It is constant, flowing like an invisible current that moves between you and the world. When you give your attention to someone, you are transferring energy. When you listen with patience, you are offering a form of nourishment. When you speak with anger, you are releasing an energy that can wound. And when you smile with authenticity, you share warmth that can uplift. To recognize this is to begin to understand responsibility. Not responsibility as a burden, but responsibility as awareness. You carry energy and you release it in every gesture, every thought, every word. Often, people underestimate the subtlety of energy. They think it is only action that matters. But the energy you hold behind an action determines its effect. A kind word spoken without sincerity carries little weight. A moment of silence shared with full presence can heal more deeply than hours of distracted conversation. Energy does not lie. It reveals itself beyond appearances. This is why sometimes you feel drained after being with certain people and uplifted after being with others. The difference lies not in what they did, but in what they carried and exchanged with you. To understand energy exchange is also to understand boundaries. If you constantly give without balance, your energy diminishes and you become depleted. If you constantly take without giving, your spirit becomes heavy, disconnected, restless. Balance is not found in counting or keeping score, but in cultivating awareness of flow. Imagine a river. If it is blocked, it stagnates. If it is allowed to flow freely, it nourishes everything in its path. The same applies to human energy. When you allow energy to circulate, by giving generously and receiving openly, you remain in harmony. Yet, many people hold on tightly, either afraid to give or afraid to receive. Some guard their energy so fiercely that they become closed, unreachable, unable to connect. Others scatter their energy in every direction, leaving themselves exhausted, unfocused, and weakened. Both extremes are a misunderstanding of energy exchange. Energy is not meant to be hoarded, and it is not meant to be wasted. It is meant to be shared with wisdom, directed with intention, and allowed to flow naturally. When you engage in any relationship, whether with people, work, or even your own thoughts, you are engaging in energy exchange. Your mind can drain you or energize you, depending on what you choose to focus on. If you constantly dwell on fear, resentment, or regret, your own energy is consumed, leaving you weakened. If you focus on gratitude, clarity, and purposeful action, your energy expands, and what you radiate uplifts not only yourself but those around you. This inner dialogue is itself an exchange, and it influences every other interaction in your life. Think of the way nature demonstrates energy exchange. The sun gives light, the plants transform it into life. The animals consume the plants, and the cycle continues. Nothing holds on to energy without movement. Even in stillness, there is exchange. The tree inhales what you exhale, and you inhale what the tree releases. This endless cycle is the law of existence, and to live in harmony is to participate consciously in this flow. To deepen awareness of energy exchange, one must first become sensitive to it. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. Notice how certain environments lift your spirit while others weigh it down. Observe the quality of your own energy when you are rested, focused, and calm, compared to when you are distracted, agitated, or exhausted. Sensitivity is the foundation of wisdom. Without sensing, there is no understanding. Without understanding, there is no mastery. Mastery of energy exchange does not mean control over others. It means control over yourself. It means recognizing that you cannot decide how others carry or share their energy, but you can decide how you carry yours, how you protect it, and how you offer it. When your energy is stable, rooted in clarity and calmness, you are not easily disturbed by the fluctuations of others. You can engage without being consumed, give without being emptied, receive without being overwhelmed. There is also the dimension of silence in energy exchange. Sometimes the most powerful communication happens without words. Two individuals can sit together, and the quiet between them can either be heavy and uncomfortable or light and harmonious. The difference lies not in what is said, but in the energy present. Silence can transmit peace or it can transmit tension. Learning to cultivate inner silence as strength allows your energy to radiate stability without the need for speech. In the same way, energy exchange takes place even with places and objects. A room filled with chaos reflects back chaos to the one living inside it. A space kept clean, ordered, and cared for supports clarity of mind. The objects you surround yourself with, the art you choose to see, the music you listen to, all carry an energetic imprint that interacts with you. This exchange is subtle but constant, and over time it shapes your inner state. Energy exchange is also magnified in collective settings. When many people gather with the same intention, whether it is to celebrate, to grieve, to learn, or to practice, the shared energy becomes a powerful field that influences everyone present. This is why collective meditation, collective chanting, or even collective silence can have such a profound effect. The energy of one amplifies the energy of many, and the energy of many amplifies the energy of one. Every moment. You are both a sender and a receiver. You cannot escape this truth because it is not something you do. It is something you are. You are an energetic being, constantly in exchange with life itself. What you hold inside is what you give out, and what you give out returns to you in countless ways. To ignore this is to remain blind to the most fundamental law of existence, and to recognize it is to step closer to harmony with yourself and with the world around you. Human beings move through life not only with the words they speak or the actions they show, but also with silent currents that shape their decisions, their behavior, and their relationships. These currents are hidden intentions. They are not always visible to the eye, yet they guide the hand, bend the voice, and create the outcomes that many later call destiny. To understand hidden intentions is to realize that what truly drives a person is rarely the story they tell others, and often not even the story they tell themselves. The conscious mind likes to believe it is in control, but beneath it lies a deeper network of motivations, desires, fears, and expectations that operate in silence. When someone takes action, it appears on the surface as simple behavior. A smile, a gift, a promise, or even a gesture of kindness may appear straightforward. But intention is like the root system beneath a tree. You cannot see it from above, but it determines the strength, direction, and nourishment of what grows. A gift given with love carries an energy that nourishes both giver and receiver. A gift given with the desire for control or recognition carries a weight, a subtle heaviness that disturbs the exchange. What matters is not only the action, but the energy that precedes it. Hidden intentions reveal themselves not through words, but through the feeling that lingers after the action has been completed. Much of human suffering is born from not recognizing the intentions behind choices. People say they want peace, but hidden beneath is the intention to win an argument. They say they want love, but hidden beneath is the intention to be validated. They say they want success, but hidden beneath is the intention to appear superior. These intentions create conflict between what is spoken and what is silently pursued. The result is inner fragmentation, a state where the mind is divided and the heart becomes restless. The outer world reflects this inner conflict, and relationships become tangled in misunderstandings because what is declared does not match what is actually intended. To bring light to hidden intentions requires the discipline of self-observation. It is not enough to ask, what do I want? One must ask, why do I want it? And then, what do I expect this to give me? This questioning peels away the layers of self-deception. For often, the mind constructs a noble story around actions in order to protect the ego. But the real motive lies deeper. It could be fear of being left behind, a desire to control circumstances, or a hunger for approval. These motives are not evil, but they must be recognized. Unacknowledged intentions continue to direct life in shadows, while recognized intentions can be transformed into conscious choices. Hidden intentions are not always destructive. Sometimes they are the quiet expressions of a longing too delicate to be spoken aloud. The hidden intention to heal, to find belonging, or to discover truth often guides a person's journey without them realizing it. A wanderer searching for purpose may think they are chasing success, yet their hidden intention is to find inner peace. A student may think they want to master a skill, but their hidden intention is to overcome the insecurity that has followed them for years. In these cases, the hidden intention is like a lantern carried in the dark, leading the way even when the traveler does not know the final destination. The challenge arises when hidden intentions are out of alignment with conscious declarations. When someone claims to want harmony but secretly intends to dominate, their energy reveals the contradiction. Others may not identify it logically, but they feel it emotionally. Energy does not lie. The body recognizes what the mind denies. This is why trust can be broken without words. People sense hidden intentions even when they cannot explain them. A voice, a gesture, or a silence can expose more than an entire speech. Clarity of intention is therefore not a matter of morality but of power. A person whose intentions are clear, even if simple, moves with strength. Their energy flows in one direction, unobstructed by contradiction. A person with hidden, conflicting intentions disperses their energy, becoming weak in action and unstable in presence. Strength comes not from the loudness of speech, but from the purity of alignment between intention and action. When what is thought, felt, and done are unified, energy becomes concentrated. This is what makes certain individuals so impactful. It is not the words they use, but the invisible coherence behind those words. To uncover hidden intentions, one must practice silence and reflection. In silence, the masks of the mind begin to slip. Without distraction, the truth of what one really wants surfaces. This is why meditation, contemplation, and mindful breathing are so powerful. They allow the noise of justifications to settle and reveal the subtle movements underneath. Through this practice, the hidden can no longer remain hidden. The individual learns to witness their own motives with honesty. Once revealed, hidden intentions no longer control from the shadows. They can be questioned, refined, and redirected. A desire for approval can transform into a desire for authentic connection. A need for control can shift into a commitment to responsibility. A fear of loss can evolve into gratitude for what is present. Hidden intentions, when seen, lose their ability to manipulate from behind the curtain. Instead, they become conscious allies in shaping a life of alignment and authenticity. The path of growth is not only about actions, but about purifying the soil from which those actions grow. Words may inspire, actions may influence, but it is intentions that carve the deeper patterns of destiny. Hidden intentions shape every moment of life, whether acknowledged or ignored. To live with awareness is to bring light to them, to understand the roots before expecting the fruits, to listen to the silence beneath the noise, and to meet oneself in the unseen places where decisions are truly made. Not boundaries are not walls meant to keep the world out. They are not barriers built out of fear or bitterness. They are the invisible lines that remind us where we end and where the outside begins. To live without boundaries is to live without definition. It is like pouring water into a broken vessel. No matter how much you give, nothing remains inside. Boundaries give form to our energy, protect our inner resources, and create the structure within which we can thrive. When people think of strength, they often imagine physical power, endurance, or the ability to withstand hardship. But true strength is subtle. It is the strength of knowing when to step back, when to say no, and when to preserve energy for the right purpose. Boundaries are not acts of aggression, but acts of clarity. They are the way we choose to respect ourselves, our time, and our inner world. Without them, life becomes scattered, and the self dissolves into the demands and expectations of others. Many hesitate to set boundaries because of fear. Fear of being disliked, fear of disappointing others, fear of appearing selfish. Yet what is truly selfish is to live inauthentically, to give from a place of exhaustion rather than fullness. Boundaries are not selfish. They are a recognition that only by protecting your energy can you give anything of value to the world. Just as a tree must root itself firmly in the ground to grow tall, you too must root yourself in the clarity of your own boundaries. Boundaries are also mirrors. They reflect back to others how we wish to be treated. When we tolerate disrespect, when we allow constant intrusion, we silently teach the world that our space can be disregarded. But when we calmly, firmly, and consistently uphold our boundaries, we send a clear message: my energy is valuable, my presence is not to be taken for granted, and my inner space deserves respect. This does not push others away. Instead, it invites the right kind of connection, one based on mutual respect and understanding. In relationships, boundaries become the foundation of trust. Without them, one person often feels drained while the other becomes dependent. With them, both individuals are free to meet in the middle, bringing their best selves forward. A boundary is not a rejection. It is an invitation to meet on healthier ground. It says, here is the space where I feel balanced, Here is where I can stand with strength, and from this place, I can connect with you more deeply. To build boundaries, one must first learn to listen inwardly. What depletes me? What nourishes me? What situations leave me feeling whole, and which ones leave me feeling fragmented? These are not questions to be ignored, because every answer reveals where a boundary must be drawn. Life constantly asks for pieces of us, our time, our focus, our emotions. Without boundaries, the world will take endlessly, not out of cruelty, but because we have not yet defined where enough begins. Strength is not only in saying no, but in doing so without guilt. Guilt arises when we mistake boundaries for rejection, when we confuse protection with selfishness. But guilt fades when we understand that to protect our inner world is to honor the life within us. Just as the skin of the body holds the organs in place, keeping life intact, our boundaries hold our inner being together, ensuring we do not leak our energy into places that do not value it. Boundaries are not rigid. They are not unbreakable fences, but living edges that shift and adapt with time. In one season of life, you may need stronger limits, while in another, openness may feel right. Strength lies not in hardening yourself, but in remaining aware and flexible, adjusting boundaries as you grow. The art is to hold them firmly enough to maintain your power, yet gently enough to allow connection. When you lack boundaries, resentment often grows. You say yes when your heart wants to say no. You give when you are already empty. You show up when you are in need of rest. Over time, this resentment corrodes relationships because giving without boundaries is not true giving. It is sacrifice, and sacrifice without alignment becomes a slow form of self-destruction. Boundaries prevent this corrosion. They ensure that when you give, it is from choice, from abundance, and from genuine willingness. The practice of boundaries is also the practice of silence. It is the silence of stepping back when you feel pushed, the silence of not needing to explain your every choice, the silence of simply honoring your truth. In this silence lies strength, for strength is not in loud defense, but in quiet certainty. To know your limits, to uphold them without anger, is a form of mastery that does not seek approval but radiates respect. Boundaries also create space for growth. When you say no to distractions, you say yes to focus. When you say no to toxic dynamics, you say yes to harmony. When you say no to overextending yourself, you say yes to depth in the things that matter. Every no that comes from a place of strength is a doorway to a deeper yes. Without boundaries, life becomes shallow and scattered. With them, it gains depth, clarity, and meaning. Strength is not only what you build for yourself, but what you allow others to build within themselves. By having boundaries, you teach others the value of responsibility. You remind them that they, too, must find their own ground, their own strength, their own clarity. Boundaries empower not only you, but those around you, because they create an atmosphere where authenticity is the only way forward. Human beings carry within them many desires, many impulses, and many demands. Some of these demands are worthy because they lead us toward growth, peace, and harmony. Others are unworthy because they chain the mind, trap the spirit, and weaken the heart. The path of wisdom is not about suppressing everything, but about recognizing which demands nourish and which demands poison. To walk with clarity, one must first understand the nature of the 10 unworthy demands. The first unworthy demand is the demand for perfection in everything. This is the hunger to control all outcomes, to arrange life so that nothing ever goes wrong. But life is not meant to be perfectly ordered. It breathes, it shifts, it bends, it breaks. When the mind clings to perfection, it suffocates itself with disappointment. The obsession with flawlessness blinds one from appreciating what is already beautiful in its imperfection. The second unworthy demand is the demand for constant recognition. The mind whispers, see me, praise me, confirm me. When recognition does not come, resentment grows. But recognition from the outside is like a shadow. It vanishes when the light changes. A person who constantly demands recognition is like a thirsty wanderer trying to drink from a mirage. True recognition must first come from the self, from an inner knowing that you are enough even without applause. The third unworthy demand is the demand for certainty in a world that is uncertain. This demand is born from fear. People want life to show them a guarantee before they take a step. They want certainty in love, certainty in success, certainty in the future. But certainty is not the language of life. Life speaks in uncertainty, and the wise learn to dance with it. To demand certainty is to refuse the very nature of existence. The fourth unworthy demand is the demand to always be right. This demand creates conflict in relationships, closes doors in conversations, and builds walls in the heart. The need to always be right is often stronger than the desire for peace. It is better to understand than to be right, for understanding heals while self-righteousness wounds. The fifth unworthy demand is the demand for speed in a world that unfolds at its own rhythm. The impatient heart insists that everything must happen quickly, growth must be fast, healing must be instant, success must come overnight. This demand ignores the wisdom of patience. A seed does not demand to be a tree tomorrow. The sun does not demand to rise faster. To live with constant demand for speed is to miss the quiet unfolding of life seasons. The sixth unworthy demand is the demand for others to change while refusing to change oneself. This demand creates endless frustration because it gives away power. You cannot control another's growth, another's choices, another's timing. When the mind demands others to change, it becomes blind to the transformation that must first begin within. The seventh unworthy demand is the demand for comfort without struggle. People want ease without effort, mastery without practice, wisdom without experience. This demand weakens the spirit because it denies the sharpening that comes through challenge. Comfort without struggle produces fragility, while struggle without comfort produces resilience. To constantly demand comfort is to refuse the very fire that forges strength. The eighth unworthy demand is the demand for life to always be fair, according to one's own definition of fairness. Life is not balanced according to human measures. Sometimes the diligent fail, sometimes the lazy succeed, sometimes the kind suffer, sometimes the unjust prosper. To demand fairness in all things is to place yourself in a constant battle with reality. Instead of demanding fairness, learn to practice justice in your own actions, regardless of what others receive. The ninth unworthy demand is the demand for happiness without awareness. Many want joy but avoid self-reflection. They want peace but refuse silence. They want light but do not want to face their own shadows. This demand leads to shallow pleasures that quickly fade, leaving emptiness behind. Happiness without awareness is like a candle without flame. It appears whole, yet it does not shine. The 10th unworthy demand is the demand for permanence in a world built on change. People hold on to relationships, possessions, identities, and even pain, believing they can make them last forever. But nothing stays. To demand permanence is to suffer every time life moves as it must. Release allows flow, clinging brings grief. These 10 unworthy demands arise from the restless mind, from the ego that seeks to control the uncontrollable, to cling to the unholdable, and to define life according to its own rigid expectations. The way forward is not to judge oneself harshly for having these demands, but to see them clearly. Awareness dissolves the chains. Once you see that perfection is an illusion, you stop chasing it. Once you see that recognition is empty, you no longer thirst for it. Once you see that certainty cannot exist, you stop waiting for it. By naming these unworthy demands, you expose their weight. By exposing their weight, you loosen their grip. And by loosening their grip, you begin to walk lighter, freer, and closer to the essence of being. There are forces in life that constantly try to bend, break, or reshape us into something we are not. These forces can come from the expectations of others, from the weight of society, from relationships that demand too much, or from the subtle voice of self-doubt whispering inside the mind. And yet there exists a shield, a form of invisible armor, which does not rely on anger, does not rely on aggression, but on a deeper quality that grows from within. This shield is self-respect. Self-respect is not arrogance. It does not shout, and it does not need to prove its worth to anyone. It is quiet, steady, and immovable like the roots of a tree that run deep into the earth. When a person carries self-respect, they no longer accept every demand made upon them. They no longer chase for validation in every passing glance, and they no longer bend their values just to belong. Instead, they stand firm in who they are. This is the first way self-respect becomes protection. It sets boundaries. Without boundaries, one becomes like a river overflowing its banks, flooding everything around it and losing its true course. But with boundaries, there is clarity, direction, and strength. Consider the human tendency to seek approval. From childhood, there is a constant call to be accepted, praised, acknowledged. But when this desire grows unchecked, it turns into chains. People begin to measure themselves not by their own values, but by the applause of others. This is how manipulation finds its way into life. Someone who knows you crave approval can use it to control you. Yet, self-respect cuts these chains. It reminds you that approval is temporary, but dignity is eternal. No applause from the outside can replace the inner knowing that you remained true to your principles. In the practice of self-discipline, monks and practitioners of wisdom traditions understand the importance of self-respect. They rise early, train their bodies, train their minds, not because anyone is watching, but because they refuse to abandon their inner standard. Self-respect means holding yourself accountable when no one else does. And through this practice, they protect themselves from weakness, from laziness, from drifting into the chaos of undirected living. When the world tempts you with distraction, self-respect whispers, "Do not forget who you are, do not abandon what you know is right." There is also a deeper dimension to self-respect, one that goes beyond the surface of daily choices. It has to do with energy. Every thought, every action, every word we speak carries energy. When you respect yourself, you do not waste this energy in places where it will be disrespected or ignored. You guard your time, you guard your effort, you guard your attention. This is protection of the highest order, because energy once wasted is energy that cannot be recovered. Self-respect teaches you to give where it is worthy, to step back when it is not, and to remain whole instead of fractured by endless giving to people or situations that only drain you. Many people believe that to protect themselves they must build walls, shut others out, or harden their hearts. But self-respect is not a wall, it is a filter. It allows love in, it allows kindness in, it allows opportunities for growth in. But it does not allow disrespect, manipulation, or abuse to pass through. When you live with self-respect, you no longer have to explain to others where your limits are, because your very presence communicates it. The way you carry yourself, the way you choose silence over reaction, the way you refuse to chase what diminishes you, these become your unspoken protection. There is also protection in refusing to compromise the truth of your being. In a world that constantly encourages comparison, where one person's success becomes another's insecurity, self-respect shields you from envy and jealousy. You begin to understand that your path is your own, and no comparison can shake the ground beneath your feet. The storms of competition and the winds of criticism may blow, but they cannot uproot a tree that knows its own strength. When challenges come, when insults are thrown, when others doubt you, self-respect does not respond with rage or bitterness. It responds with silence, with composure, with dignity. That silence is not weakness, it is strength. Because true power does not need to announce itself. True power resides in knowing that your value does not decrease because someone else fails to see it. And in this way, self-respect protects you from the pain of every careless word, from the sting of every rejection, from the shadow of every doubt. In relationships, too, self-respect is the foundation of balance. Without it, one person gives endlessly while the other only takes. Without it, sacrifices are made not out of love but out of fear. Fear of being abandoned, fear of being unloved. But when self-respect enters, love transforms. It becomes free, not forced. It becomes mutual, not one-sided. This is protection because it saves the soul from being drained, from being emptied out in the name of false connection. To live without self-respect is to be at the mercy of the world. To live with self-respect is to walk through life with an inner fortress that no one can break. It is not about shutting yourself off. It is about knowing your worth so deeply that nothing outside can lower it. It is protection not through force, but through clarity. It is armor not made of steel, but of conviction. In life, the people we choose to walk beside us shape the direction of our journey more than we sometimes realize. Relationships are not simply random connections. They are reflections of where we are, what we value, and what we silently believe we deserve. To choose relationships with awareness means to step out of unconscious patterns, to step beyond the pull of convenience or comfort, and to begin engaging with others from a place of clarity, strength, and mindfulness. When one lives without awareness, relationships often become a cycle of repetition, repeating old wounds, old habits, and old energies that only deepen suffering. But when awareness is present, every relationship becomes a mirror that helps us grow rather than a trap that keeps us bound. Awareness requires first that we look within. If someone does not know themselves, how can they possibly know who is right to allow close? Without inner clarity, choices in relationships often arise from fear, loneliness, or the desire to fill an empty space. One clings to whoever arrives hoping they will complete what is missing inside. But this is an illusion. A relationship chosen from emptiness cannot bring fullness. Instead, awareness teaches that one must first cultivate wholeness within so that connections arise not from lack but from strength. From this space, one does not look for someone to rescue them or to validate them, but seeks instead those who vibrate with the same frequency of growth and integrity. There is also the question of alignment. When one observes deeply, it becomes clear that relationships are either aligned or misaligned with the path one is walking. Awareness reveals when a relationship pulls us away from our values, when it makes us betray ourselves in order to keep the connection alive. This is not alignment. This is sacrifice of the self. True alignment does not require one to shrink, to hide, or to silence their truth. Instead, it encourages expansion. Relationships chosen with awareness feel like wind beneath the wings rather than chains on the ankles. They amplify rather than diminish. And yet, many choose misaligned connections out of habit, out of fear of being alone, or out of the false belief that love must always be hard. Awareness breaks this illusion and shows that harmony is possible when both people walk in truth. To choose relationships with awareness is also to understand the energy we allow into our space. Every person carries energy that influences us, whether we are conscious of it or not. Some carry energy that uplifts, motivates, and inspires. Others carry energy that drains, confuses, or darkens the spirit. Without awareness, one may ignore these subtle signals, explaining away the heaviness they feel after interacting with someone. With awareness, however, one learns to listen to this subtle language of energy. One realizes that choosing who to let close is not an act of judgment, but an act of self-respect. To allow someone consistently into your space is to open yourself to their influence. Awareness asks, is this influence strengthening or weakening me? Is it bringing me closer to who I wish to become or further away? Another dimension of choosing relationships with awareness is the courage to release. Awareness does not only mean choosing who enters, it also means knowing when it is time for someone to leave. Many hold on out of attachment, out of fear of loss, or out of memories of what once was. But awareness teaches that not all relationships are meant to last forever. Some come as lessons, others as stepping stones, and a few as lifelong companions. To confuse the temporary with the eternal is to create suffering. To cling to what has already served its purpose is to stagnate one's growth. Awareness sharpens perception so that one can distinguish when a relationship still nurtures growth and when it has become only a repetition of the past. Choosing relationships with awareness also transforms how we show up for others. When we become conscious, we no longer demand from others what we refuse to give ourselves. We no longer project our insecurities onto them or burden them with expectations they cannot carry. Instead, we engage from a place of presence and responsibility. We recognize that relationships are not about completing one another, but about walking together in shared growth. In this way, awareness deepens the quality of connection. Communication becomes clearer, conflicts less destructive, and love less entangled with fear. Awareness brings patience as well. In a world where people rush into relationships to avoid the discomfort of solitude, awareness teaches that stillness is also valuable. It is better to wait with clarity than to hurry into entanglement. The space created by waiting consciously is not empty but fertile. It allows time for discernment, for observing whether the other's actions align with their words, whether their presence harmonizes with your inner path. When awareness guides, relationships are no longer accidents of timing, but deliberate choices made with the full weight of intention. Finally, awareness in relationships is a practice, not a one-time decision. It is something to be renewed daily. One must continually return to oneself, continually ask, what am I allowing? What am I nurturing? What am I tolerating that no longer belongs? Without this practice, awareness fades and unconscious habits return. With this practice, relationships remain living, breathing spaces for mutual growth, rather than rigid structures that bind. The quality of our lives is deeply intertwined with the quality of our relationships, and the quality of our relationships depends on the depth of our awareness